Welcome to Satsang. Some people have asked me, well, how do I know that what is covered in Satsang, and how can I be sure that what you're saying is the truth? So since that question relates to what we're going to do this evening, then I'll answer it this way. If you're listening with your mind, if you're trying to figure it out, if you're trying to see if you agree or disagree with what you've studied and all that, forget it. Because the truth has nothing to do with words, even though we have to use words. Like the Course in Miracles says that words are the symbols of symbols, but they are pointers. You know, they point to us, to the truth. So therefore, truth is really a feeling, a being, you see. You know, for 27 years I've studied, I've read metaphysics, philosophy, psychology, you name it, you know. And it wasn't until the year 2000 when, in a conflicted relationship, I felt myself locked between a rock and a hard place, and I didn't know how to move away from it. And then helpless, and I said, please help me, you know. I don't know anything at this point. And then something wonderful happened. That bird itself disappeared. Okay? How much you understand this or not, it's very hard to put in words. But you've had moments when you had disappeared, when like loving something so completely that you weren't even there. Do you understand? But in this particular case there was nothing, absolutely nothing. And it happened in the washroom. Now at that point, it came very clear that there's nothing to know, nothing to understand, but to feel, to be, and to have silence. See, silence is the whole key. You know, people are arguing sometimes, they're having great debates or religious beliefs, but all that doesn't mean anything. The ultimate truth, the truth that we are all after, is silence itself. Okay, it's nothingness, or rather nothingness. It is not a thing. And when we begin to feel that, at that moment, you will also begin to feel something else happening. You will feel a peace you never knew before. It's a wonderful feeling. That is the truth of being. Now, some people who listen to a satsang teacher might in the beginning feel very conflicted as far as the words go, and they get mixed up and unclear. But after a while, when they start listening with the heart, because we know this person is real, as we keep on listening, we begin to feel we're becoming quiet in that listening. We feel that silence coming inside us. That silence is the truth. You see? And that silence is also known as unconditional love. Because when you feel it, you cannot even think about wrong or anything adverse. Okay, so now today's topic also is based on a way which I call radical self-acceptance. Now I'll tell you why I use the word radical, because in psychology self-acceptance means you accept yourself as you are. Okay, if right now you're feeling unhappy, you're feeling things are happening, and you accept yourself. Okay, that's fine. That's good. Okay, but it doesn't do anything in the sense of waking you up. Radical self-acceptance is an entirely different process. What it does, radical because it's radical. It's totally different. Self is with a capital S. Okay, just like Bhagavan Maharshi used to say that everything is the self. So therefore, when you focus on that one word, the self, okay, and you accept it without striving for it, without seeking it, without trying to figure it out, you accept it. That very acceptance itself makes you flower into the inner knowing. But we're going to see the steps leading to it after we've discussed certain points. Okay, so now last Tuesday, which was 2 days ago, I was looking at Facebook, and there was a man who posted four questions that are rather, you know, great to answer because they are very difficult to answer with words. Okay? And they were posted in the Advaita Vedanta Sangha part. Okay, if you're aware of it, there's hundreds of people now joining it, so it's beautiful, you know, sharing teachings of Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta, Punjaji, etc., etc. So anyway, so I'd like to go into these questions. All of us get involved now, okay? Because that's what I promised. I wrote him back and I said you'll be hearing the answers to your questions. But what I'd like to add to that is that these are not answers. Answers are only words. The answers themselves is the silence that we are talking about. So if we can see that in each question it's all leading to that inner silence. Can you imagine how beautiful it is when your mind is no longer afraid? When your mind is no longer thoughts of unhappiness or doing this or doing that, it's just totally at peace. And you feel that clarity that will come to you. You see? And it is that silence that we're talking about. Now some people says, but what if there's a lot of noise? Can you be silent? People think that silence and noise are opposites. Once you have attained inner silence, the noise does not affect you anymore, because noise has nothing to do with the silence we are talking about. Am I being clear here? The silence I'm talking about is the spiritual essence of the heart. Okay? Where you see the oneness and you see no conflict, no differentiation, no separation at all. Okay, so now these are the four questions, and I'd like you to feel them out and we'll respond to them. Okay, first question. He asked, without the relative, would the absolute literally be nothing? That's the first one. I'll repeat. Without the relative, would the absolute literally be nothing? I didn't mean silence from words here. Okay, let's
Without
go
the
into
role,
it.
you want somebody to answer that?
Hmm?
Do you want somebody here to try and answer that, or?
Well, I'd like
Speak
some
to
feedback.
Oh, well.
Okay, yeah.
Without the relative, all there is absolute, and absolute is nothing.
Okay. The words are okay here, but let's go into it. What do you mean by relative? See, when we talk about the world, we talk about relativity, right? Which relativity, like Einstein's theory, meant it the same way. It's a relationship to the truth, to the oneness, okay? Everything that relates to oneness relates, but is not oneness in the sense of being pure being. Okay? So he was talking relativity as opposite nothingness. But are they really opposite? Can anything be opposite to nothingness?
It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's like saying what is relative to love. We're trying to split something that has that can't be split because
that's right.
It's not a thing that can be split off. It is infused and the essence of everything. So
you see, yeah. So when we talk about nothing, we are really, literally talking about everything. You see, because
yes, it is.
Nothing is the very essence of everything.
That's right.
Even scientists now, physicists have discovered that the world that we feel is so real isn't real at all. matter is not as solid as we think, but our senses make it seem to be. But in reality, this world is also nothing, which came from spirit, in other words. See? So it's all part of that same one essence. Nothing is separate from anything else. So when he asked,
he's created a dichotomy that doesn't exist. It's like, have you stopped beating your wife yet? You know? It's because, you know, everything is nothing, and nothing is everything. So you can't compare them.
no, you can't compare, and you cannot separate. Right? So, so when he says, now hear it again, without the relative, would the absolute literally be nothing?
That's like saying without the human, would there be being?
That's right. That's another thing too. We are human being. You see? But in truth, you are being playing the human role. It's just like the ocean, okay? You look at the ocean and there's one ocean, but a lot of waves surface on the ocean, on the surface. And all these waves, let's pretend they are humans, okay? Each wave is a human. It seems to have a personality of its own, it seems to be unique, it seems to be separate, but at the same time, can you eradicate it from the ocean? It's the same water, it's the same thing. You cannot separate anything from anything. So we go into words, yeah.
I had this insight where, how would I be able to know the beingness that I am without this form? It's just like, I'm able to taste myself. Because nothingness cannot be tasted. It's not an object. It can't be defined. It just is. And so with this human form, I'm able to like
self-recognize.
Self-recognize. So without this form, I won't be able to recognize that I am beingness.
But you are still being.
But yes.
You see,
playing the human role, and
right.
That question is really hard for me to resonate with, because it's just like, I have to use the mind in order to...
Oh, well, of course, we are using the mind here, all of us, okay? I mean, we have to use words,
right?
Okay? But we're getting to the nucleus of it,
right.
You see? And we're going to see that there is no separation at all in whatever is being asked. All the questions that seem to be questions are really not questions at all. You know, they are confusing because the mind fragments, okay? The mind is always fragmenting. You know what I mean by fragmenting, you know, separating this from this from this. But in truth, everything is holographic because everything is the essence of that same thing. So, yeah, let's take the next one. And then after we finish the whole four of them, you'll find how the first one becomes so easier to look at. Okay, the second one is, without separation, would there be one or would there be nothing?
That's the same as the first question. Word it differently. That's the same as the first question.
Okay, and in what way? Like,
we're talking about visual and the being.
Okay.
The world and the being again.
You see, he said, without separation, would there be one? He's assuming there is separation.
Yes, he has created something that in fact doesn't exist, but is only perceived as
it's
existing.
Only perceived to exist, just like the waves of the ocean are perceived to be different waves because of their size and shape and uniqueness. But they're still the same water, you see? All human beings are the same one life. But there is no separation, but seems to be separation when we think in terms of the external, you see? So the question, without separation, would there be one? First of all, there is no separation. It only seems to be.
Right.
Okay? And then he says, would there be one or would there be nothing?
They are the same thing.
They are the same thing. Okay? But you see how the mind, this is very good because how complicated the mind gets. And all it does is simply playing with words, really. Because whether you call it God, or whether you call it one, or whether you call it, it doesn't matter what you call it, nothingness, it's all one, it's all one. Again, it's all one. You see? Oneness is the very nucleus, is the very point of all existence. Once we understand that, then everything becomes clear. Everything becomes clear. Your Sai Baba, the one thing he always emphasized was the oneness of everything. You see? So he did it differently. Instead of denying some religions, he joined them all together, you know, which is a better way. Because he saw in each religion, they want oneness. The people do not follow it because they think their religion is better than another. But the point is that the basis of each religion is oneness also. You see? If you happen to be a Muslim and you call it Allah, and we Christians call it God, and we think we're talking about a different thing. But it's the same thing with a different name, you see? So that's what Sai Baba really meant. So without separation, that's why I love A Course in Miracles. It says, you know, when you awaken the atonement, and the atonement means separation is impossible. There is no separation, absolutely. It never existed. And the moment it strikes you as, how could there be separation? It's not possible. The moment you realize that, that's all you need to realize. That's it. You see? That's total clarity. No question will ever baffle you. But that oneness itself is a no thing. You see? And it's experienced as a fullness of being. It's a silence. It's being. Being. And when you are in that being, you're not disturbed. There are no questions. Everything is crystal clear. Because nothing is separate. You see? And then you see the holographic essence of it. We see that in the second one. Okay. The third one, without manifestation, would there be silence? Without manifestation, would there be silence? Yeah.
Could you repeat that again?
Without manifestation,
yeah.
Would there be silence?
Silence exists within everything. It's only because there appears to be noise in manifestation that we miss the silence that is the essence of everything.
That's right.
So you're talking two different things here.
Right.
When they're really silent.
So silence has no beginning, really. See, that's another thing too in his questions. Without manifestation, would there be silence? As if silence has come about.
Through.
Silence, right, through something. But silence hasn't come about anything. Silence is. You see, silence is. Because it is prior, I was going to say prior to the beginning. There is no beginning.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, some people says in the beginning, blah, blah, blah. But how can there be a beginning? Because if there was a beginning, who began the beginning? Did you understand? It's impossible. So that's what the silence is. The silence is that very beginningless, sourceless essence of is. You see, big words here that I've just said, which the mind cannot understand, but immediately the heart resonates, because all that was said is going back to the same thing.
All questions arise, and all form and all manifestations arise out of this isness, and this isness just is. It's just it's the all-encompassing, and all form arises out of it.
That's
and
right.
goes back into it.
That's right. That's right. All forms, everything arises from it and goes back to it.
Right.
You see? It expunges it and absorbs it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's constant inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. But the silence is untouched.
It is.
Because it is. Yeah. It is the essence of all. You know, and that's the very essence that we strive for. Like, for example, in the United States, they made a study with the health department of the United States, and they found out that less than 25% are emotionally healthy in the United States. Everybody is suffering from stress. Wow, that was quite something. It was on the internet. So, so therefore, the question is, doctors kept saying, well, it's all stress, you know. And people are stressed for money, for jobs, for relationships. You know, everything is stressful. But they never tell you what stress is. What is stress?
I know a funny anachronism for staying tense regularly, even though you see it's stupid.
Oh, hey, that's not bad. That's not bad. Yes, and it's true. And what you've just said really goes with it, because stress is self-concern. You know, one time I remember I was getting so many emails and I didn't know what to do. You know, at the end of the day I haven't finished answering all of them, and I still had about 50, 60, you know, unanswered. And I wasn't very happy about it. So I went to bed and I asked the Holy Spirit, and I said, okay, tell me, I said, you know, what am I missing here? You know, is there an easier way to answer here? Or and then it's just like a voice said they're all saying the same thing. One is a relationship problem, another one is a financial problem, another one is a career problem, another one is I am not happy with my life, or things are not working out in my life, or blah 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 blah. All self-concern. That is called stress. So therefore I said to myself, could I do something, maybe a booklet that I could give these people who ask these questions about so much self-concern that would help them? You see? And then one day I had this incredible energy, and I went to the computer and started writing. And it turned out into the book. Mm-hmm. You know, hiding
in plain sight.
Hiding in plain sight, yeah. So anyway, and what is beautiful about it is that I never intended it to be published. I just wanted it as a PDF to send it out to people. But the letters I kept getting back, you know, they say, oh my goodness, it's so simple. Oh, it has done so much good. Oh, I feel so wonderful about it. Blah. So therefore the publisher saw it and says, I'll publish it. Okay. The point I'm trying to make is that the truth is very simple, but we don't see it. And what is the truth in this case? You are a human being. Being playing the human role. But if you think you are the human, that's called stress. You see? But in truth, there is no ego. There is only the I am that I am. Right now, you are here, you know, and you're listening. What are you right now? Forget the past, okay? Because you're here. You're here right now. What are you right now?
Not stressed.
That's right.
But it's good. The moment you are in the moment, you're not stressed because you're not self-concerned.
And you're not a becoming. You're not a become. You're just not. There's no carrot in front of you. carrot and the stick approach. You're not
That's right.
becoming. You can't become now. You are now. You're already fulfilled instantaneously, just being here now.
Just being here now, you're
Recognizing-
fulfilled. The now will teach you everything you need to know, because the now is the silence itself. The now is the nothingness itself. Right now there is nothing, but you're everything. You're the presence. You see? And if you feel that nothingness, that becomes peace. You see? That becomes that moment, a divine moment. See? That is the very nature and essence of being. So you mentioned we're always becoming, and it's true. And putting a carrot in front of the donkey so that the donkey starts moving, but it never reaches the carrot. So it keeps on going endlessly. Well, this is what seeking and becoming is. You see? But what are we becoming?
Ourselves.
Ourselves, isn't it? Right. But we do not become ourselves by living from the surface ego. We become ourselves by knowing our essence, which is silence. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is, because like we all have an individual human journey that we've believed into, the job, the relationships, and so forth. And I've reson with deep inside that the beingness is longing to know itself, but it's like it's forgotten in the form. So it's just like, oh, I need to become, and the becoming is not the wealth, but recognizing that I am that which is trying to become, and
yeah,
it's the other way around. Beingness playing the role of human, and in that point of view, wow,
right, we've reversed it. Yeah,
you melt into it. It's just everything is a blessing. All of humanness.
Right.
Form.
Right.
I feel that we need to have a lot of compassion for our human.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
You know,
yes.
we.
Yes.
We
this
all
is
have
why
it.
the one that radical self-acceptance would be so beautiful, because you are the self, capital S. Okay. You are that. Okay. So the moment you find yourself depressed or troubled or things are going wrong, at the moment you take a deep breath and says, "It's okay." Because I'm really the self. The self in the way that Ramana Maharshi pointed it out. You see? And so that's self-acceptance. Because, see, people keep saying, you know, Burt, I know I am the truth. I know this is my true nature. But why don't I live it? Because you still don't believe you are. Yeah, really? And this is it. So self-acceptance, radical self-acceptance, is that every moment you remind yourself that you are. You don't have to do anything to achieve it. You don't have to, you know, do so many things. You are it itself. And all you have to do is just a moment of seeing, not trying to understand, not trying to figure out, but see that you're already the very thing you want. You see, that you are. So, let's tackle the last one. Now that should be simple now that we've done the first three. It's a little different today. But the last one. Without us, or someone like us, would God be known?
Probably not. Probably not.
Okay, explain.
Well, we're probably the only sentient beings that are able to appreciate what awareness is. That's why we're here, because we are a human being. There's nothing else that compares to us.
Right, right.
So we're basically the only ones that can really appreciate it.
So, but he's meaning here, without someone like us, without us or someone like us, he's talking about the human form. You see? And then would God be known? Yes and no. Because, you know, when we talk about knowing something, there's always a part of us that's separating from it and says, oh, I know. Okay? But real knowing has nothing to do with you knowing anything. You see, like, okay, a child is playing ball, and he's having a ball, you know, like he's really enjoying himself. Okay, he's forgetting himself, he's just one with the ball. And then the mother comes in and she says, son, are you having fun? And if he stops to answer his mother, all the fun has gone, right? Okay, because he had to know that he's having fun. And the fun is gone. Are you understanding what I'm trying to say here?
Right.
You see, God is not known by knowing that there is a God. God is known by simply being. It's just like playing. When you're playing, you're having fun. But you don't stop and say, let me see now, am I having fun? You know, I mean, you see, there is no separation. It is the oneness. So God is oneness. So God is not important to be known or not known, because God is. You see, the moment we are at peace, that's God. And we know it's God, but we might not call it God. But immediately we are filled with this fullness of being that is so beautiful that you just want to call it something. So we call it God. Okay? But we know that there is something so precious, so clear, so sacred, so everlasting, and we are it. But we're not separate from it. So it cannot be known, but it is known in that unknowing. Wow, it sounds complicated when you put it in words, isn't it? Yeah, you better say.
Without the intellectual knowing, putting that, the intellectual aside, the knowing of, the feeling knowing, the intuitive knowing, like that knowing, for me, the form has to be there in order for God to taste itself in its own creation. So without this, how would God be able to taste itself? Because it doesn't even know itself. It is. There's no contrast. It's just like, how can this room, how can all these objects exist without the space in this room?
Now, what you're saying, it is true, it's logical, and it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But have you ever had moments where you absolutely disappeared?
I'm not sure, no.
You see, this is the point. There comes a time in all of us when I don't maybe use the word disappear, where you are no longer. And in that no longerness, you are in the fullness of being. You know, but you don't know it intellectually, you don't know it in a mental sense and saying, I know it. But you are knowing it because you are living it.
I
Yeah.
think there's a confusion with the word know, because to know seems to indicate a duality.
Exactly. That's my point, yeah.
There is
Yeah.
something to be known and a
Mhm.
knower,
Yeah,
and that is where the falsehood lies.
that's right. That's right.
And so that word needs to be exploded in that sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you are being in that space, why bother or worry about knowing God? Hey, we strive to know God because we in some ways want to leave ourselves for something better, because we're looking out there. We're not realizing in here as one.
That's so beautiful.
So we keep
That's right.
wanting it from out there, and so we
Right.
create,
Right.
I gotta know this in order
You
to
see,
have
the
this.
way you put it too, this has been put by many logicians. You know, many intellectual debates. People says, well, we had to be born human in order to experience God.
Right.
You see, and I heard that so often, and I read it so often, and it's not true. And I'm totally convinced it's not true. When I totally disappeared and I was in the washroom, there was nothing there, nothing, you know. But in that nothing, I didn't know anything. But in that not knowing anything, there was nothing I didn't know.
Mhm.
I think you're understanding me,
Yeah.
right? So did you ever experience out of body?
Yes and no. I can't, there's no, how am I supposed to, how would I be able to remember that? Because it'll be
You would remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
You would remember out of body, definitely. Yeah.
I have heard.
You have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you give us some insight into what you experienced?
Well, I had the Kundalini experience,
Uh-huh.
and so it's slightly different. And then I've left my body and actually could see myself.
Right.
But I can say, watching myself, I could see myself sleep, but definitely my human mind was active.
Yes,
I could
it
see
is, yes.
like the spiritual cord also. And because I was reading all the spiritual books, I was worried about that cord being cut or something, right? And I was floating away. I was floating up away from my body, getting farther and farther away, and I actually had fear that with that experience.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
With that experience, when I did get up in the morning, the first thing I decided to do was to find a guru, because I thought that I have no guidance, and because I had the fear, and that was the beginning of my search for a teacher that could explain
it. It is true. If your cord ever severed, you would be dead. You knew that probably.
That's where the fear came from.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
I was drifting away without any
Yeah.
control.
Yeah. See, the beautiful experience that you've had is because it proves to you that you're so much more than just a body. But the mind was intact, outside the body. So people who study the brain and they place all the emphasis on the brain, well, the moment you discuss something like this, you know, the brain is nothing but a radio receiver, you know, and an input and output device. But the mind is everything. But where is the mind?
Yeah.
You see, where is the mind?
See, one would say in here, they point to the skull, but
That might be like the senses.
yeah,
Like the sense of sight is here, the sense
Right.
of hearing is here. You see, but when you're outside the form, you still have hearing, you still have seeing. You see, so that's mind. So the body, when we say where is mind, some people says the mind is inside me. No way. The body is inside the mind. Not the other way around. The mind is everything. Everything is mind. That's why the world appears so real. See? Because it is all mind creation. But deeper than this, deeper than the mind, and here we're talking about universal mind, okay? Something very beautiful, something wonderful, okay? Which is really the Christ mind, so to speak, if you have to put words to it. But beyond that lies that deep, deep silence. Buddha called it nirvana. And in that state of nirvana, that's when there is a total disappearance of the ego self, completely. And at that point, there's nothing that you know, there's nothing that you don't know. Because all paradoxes, all the separation, it's just everything is one. You see? So knowing and not knowing is immaterial, irrelevant, and unimportant. So these questions that people ask are just words playing with words. You see? That's all they are. But when you get into it, and you really go into it, you'll find that both are the same one. You know, and in that silence lies everything. Now you see, most people are afraid of nothingness because they think that nothingness is a vacuum. You see, it's not. It's a fullness of being. Because when you fully disappear, that's heaven. That's paradise. You see, that's fullness of being. And therefore, you know God, but there is no God to know because you are God. I know the words, but are you getting what I'm saying here?
There's at that point, there's no separation.
There's no separation.
And all that other stuff has, it's not applicable as it's, because you are in the heart of Source.
In the heart of Source. And therefore you're the Source.
That's right. There is no separation between
There's no
you
separation.
and that.
So there's no
There
one
isn't
who
even
knows the Source, but yet it's all Source. There's no one who knows God, but it's all God. It's just like the child playing ball. He was having fun until he was asked, are you having fun? And the fun was gone because he had to separate himself to see if he knows he's having fun. He was having fun, whether he knows it or not. But he is being fun.
Yeah.
It's very simple to me, but I don't know whether yeah, in being, see, this is what being is. Being, knowing, is complete. God is complete. Silence is complete. But there is no one being either or. It is complete. Because there's nothing missing or there's nothing lacking. There's nothing to add or there's nothing to take away. It is. You see? And that isness is the culminating point of self-realization. That's how we realize who we are. And you say, my God, I am. I cannot die because I never existed. I was never born. I am. Imagine when that comes to you and all of a sudden there is that knowing. And yet it is not something you know because there's nothing to know. It's the
way it is.
It's the way it is. The word is so beautiful. Yeah. So let's discuss that point that I mentioned in the beginning, radical self-acceptance, okay? Now there are three ways to radically accept yourself. And in that acceptance comes awareness. First, you become aware that the mind is judging all the time. It's always reaching a conclusion. Always. But here is something that is going to be challenging here. Okay? Every time you reach a conclusion, are you correct? Can you correctly reach a conclusion?
No, because there is no conclusion. That is gathering a bunch of stuff and making something out of it when it's just making mud pies. And I don't know how else to say it. We conclude because we want safety.
Very good.
And
we conclude because we want safety, we want security. We want to reach a point where we can say, yes, that's the way it is. I made up my mind, that's the way it is.
But the unknowing goes on forever.
But the unknowing goes on forever. Okay, so now this is the first step to self-realization, which is self-acceptance, radical self-acceptance. The first point is, be aware that every judgment you make, which is really making up your mind, or judging it good or bad, the moment you make a judgment, you have come into your ego. You have come into your conditioned mind. We're not talking about universal mind here, we're talking about individualized mind. Okay? To be aware of that. Every time you make a judgment, how many judgments do you make a day? So, but you see, every day as you become aware, you become more and more aware of how you're judging all the time. All the time. Now the key point is not to judge yourself for judging. Okay? Now this is where we're going into the essence of something. Secondly, you will find that after you made a judgment and you don't judge it, okay, something else happens that it affected your body. Because every time you make a judgment, there's a reaction. Always, always, always. But the reaction is so subtle you don't even know it's there. You're walking down the street and you see a guy acting in a way that to you is obnoxious. And you say, oh, he's obnoxious. Immediately, what's your energy? If you were running feeling joy, it's gone. There's an immediate reaction every time you make a judgment. It can't be helped. But to be aware of it, wow. See? And then the third step is very, very simple. Do absolutely nothing but rejoice in the fact that now you're moving closer to the self that you have always been. Beyond judgment, beyond reaction. Just pure unconditional love. You see? Now, this is the part of radical, because when you see yourself judging immediately, you're so used to judging that you judge yourself for judging. How could I make so many judgments? My goodness. You know, the first time I became aware of how many judgments I was making, I was judging myself all the time. Okay, because I felt, oh, wow. You know, all the time. But then the moment I accepted it, the moment I saw it as part of the mind, you know, then I moved deeper and I became aware of the body in a way I wasn't aware of before. Aware of the energy, how it's fluctuating all the time, moving.
I think an important key with that step, because we're always trying to do something, is to not try to stop judging, because that will just upset the whole apple cart.
If you try to stop judging, you're judging yourself for judging that you were judging, and to stop judging.
Right, it just goes crazy.
Yeah, it goes on and on, right.
Yeah.
It's a vicious circle, right.
But being aware that you are seeing your judgment, that is an alleluia flag to run up the pole.
Yes, that is quite something. And the more you see how much you are judging, and you don't judge yourself for judging it, you become aware. Imagine your awareness just takes on a leap. And then you'll find how it's affecting the body.
And then there's no feeding of that ego stoking of conclusions.
Exactly.
And without feeding, they start slipping away.
Exactly. You see how beautiful it is? That radical self-acceptance? Right. And so before you know it, you know, you've done it for a few weeks, let's say, very dedicated, you'll find, wow, there's so much love that's opening in you. You know. I remember quite a few years ago, you know, I used to watch people, and if someone is dressed nice, I like him better than someone who is sloppily dressed. Or if someone was, you know, not as good looking as the other one, it was, you know, but now I've reached a point where everybody is beautiful. Honest to goodness, I mean it with all my heart. I don't think I can look at a human being and not see a beautiful human being, because everybody is beautiful just the way they are. You see. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because once we become aware of the judgments we're making all the time, we take a giant step towards healing the body. You see, because the body itself is neutral, okay, but it's constantly affected by the mind. Constantly affected by the mind. And so when it's affected by the mind, of course, you know, there is some suffering there. I was very busy this week when Sylvia was here, and we walked a lot and we did so many things, and now I've come up with a little bit of sore throat and all this, and so I watched it all. There was a judgment in me saying, maybe I should take it more easy, maybe I shouldn't walk as much, maybe... You see? And these things affect the body. They do. So now this morning when I got up, I wasn't feeling well at all. And then I said, but there's satsang tonight, you know. And I never know how many people are going to show. So I had this awareness again, you see? And it gives you the strength to do it. It gives you the help to do it, because it's all mind. Course in Miracles, it's so beautiful. It says it's all mind. All healing is mind.
It seems amazing because that energy seems to come from a different place. It's like we think we have to drag it out of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just the mind talking.
Yes.
Because when we realize that, even when we're sick, the energy is still there. It's quite an amazing thing.
Yeah. The energy is always there, but it takes on according to the flavor and the color that we judged it with. You see? All you have to do is think yourself not well, just for a moment, and your body immediately follows. You know? So this is but when you, yeah.
No, that's perfectly, I can see how we manifest things that we don't want, because this is another example of that. It's just that neutral energy, you focus on something that a lack and you get more of the lack. It just takes on the lack. I don't know, I just wanted to add that on.
Yeah. It's
Wayne,
gone.
Wayne Dyer was on TV, public television the other day, and he had leukemia, and he was told that it's a very serious condition. And
Yeah.
he just said to himself, "I am well.
Mm-hmm.
I am well," and he's okay now.
He's okay now?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. He's quite a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a guy, yeah.
I think with that, we all need to be aware that we don't try to use awareness as a spiritual side door to get out of things.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's a trap. Because regardless of what our circumstances are,
It's okay.
yes.
Yes.
And that is really an important thing.
Yes.
Because otherwise we keep on trying to escape our circumstances and we blame ourselves for it, which is double trouble.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to being with what is, with an open mind and an open
Mm-hmm.
heart. Because in that, miracles arise. We don't create those miracles by, oh, I'm going to do some real good miracle thinking now.
Right.
That's just, that's my judgment on that. But, but allowing awareness, life, and all that is to break us open to that, that's the miracle.
To break us open to that.
Yeah.
And feel it out. It breaks us open to that silence all the time. To that which never judges, doesn't fear, doesn't control, just flows, just loves, just moves. You see? Yeah. And that's why saying okay, and meaning it, of course, you know, if you say okay and you're not believing you're okay, I mean, that's, it won't work.
You're saying, "I'm okay." I don't think he was saying the separate self is I.
Mm-hmm.
He was bigger than that.
You're bigger than that, yes, yes, yeah, yeah. Wayne Dyer did the whole course, you know, Course of Miracles.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He supports Ramdas, you know, financially.
Oh, really?
Totally.
Oh, isn't that
That's sweet.
beautiful?
They both
That's
live on
very
Maui.
sweet.
Oh, I'm very happy to hear
He
this.
supports Ramdas financially.
Financially.
Wayne Dyer.
Uh-huh. Oh, what a beautiful man.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so did we get something out of this?
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing.
Literally, I'm baffled right now. I really don't know what. Like, I'm just seriously.
Perfect.
Oh, you got nothing out of it.
I got
Oh,
nothing out of it.
wow, that's great.
All right. Celebration.
Yeah. He's silent, you see? Yeah. Okay. Namaste.
No.